Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I as always am Riz and this is Uma Musume Cinderella Grey episode 18. So couple quick things I wanted to go over before we get started with the reaction. However, if you don't care to hear about these things at all, if you just want to see the reaction, check the chapters in the description. So the first thing I want to go over really quickly is that if it wasn't clear by the thumbnail and the title of this video, this is a timer reaction. What that means is you will be following a timer and I'll provide the subtitles too. I've actually put in quite a bit of work to try to make the subtitles more like just easier to follow by putting like who's speaking, like their name down and everything. But I won't be having the actual like visuals or audio of the episode itself. So this should not be your first place to watch the episode. This should be where you come back to just see the reaction, to watch it with me. After the fact. I thought I was making it pretty clear before, but I feel like some people might have not understood that, so there you go. And another thing that I want to go over is I got a couple comments, and like they'll tie into it, but I wanted to discuss how my stance has changed a little bit since my last reaction. About like I think 2 days after my reaction, I watched the episode again with my friend. It was her first time seeing it, and then without providing my thoughts, because I didn't want to like bias her or anything, I asked for her thoughts on things, specifically like Obey Your Master presumably breaking through and entering the zone at the end there. And she offered a perspective that I had not considered, even though like I should have. But this is what it was basically. So my biggest complaint was I was worried that they were going to cheapen entering the zone since we've only seen Simply Rudolph and Tamamo Cross do so, and they were both in like big moments of desperation and really like giving it absolutely everything they had, right, to push through, break through the metaphorical glass, right, and enter the zone. And so I was worried that since we hadn't seen any of that exhaustion and desperation with Obey Your Master, that her entering the zone just, again, like cheapened the effect. It didn't mean as much. It was when everyone can suddenly go Super Saiyan, you know what I mean? But what I hadn't considered was maybe this is not the first time that Obey Your Master has entered the zone. Like with Tamamo Cross here, she like seemed to re-enter it. She at least, it did the whole thing, right? She was like, yeah, I recognize this feeling. It did the white lightning thing, which was really cool. And she had not been in that like desperate state. So that's where I should have realized, like, okay, maybe this is not the first time for Obey Your Master. I think what really pushed it in that direction for me was the fact that it showed the glass cracking, and then we see Obey Your Master's eye. And so, to me, the glass cracking is like symbolic of breaking through your limits, right? But I guess not necessarily. That's just largely why I leaned in that direction. But if this is not Obey Your Master's first time entering the zone, then that makes a lot more sense, and I'm cool with that. Because my issue wasn't like, how can you go from like being serious in the race to being all silly like she was waving at, Tamamo Cross and everything, right? My issue wasn't with that, because yeah, that definitely fits her personality. My issue was, I don't think that she could be at that brink, that point of desperation, and switch back and forth between like the silly and the super serious, That's where it was for me. Just whether or not it really looked like she had reached the point where breaking through her limits made sense. But yeah, we have no idea how she's progressed like off camera, right? She doesn't have any like G1 wins. I think she only had a few wins out of like 21 or 23 races or something like that. So it was surprising, but we have no idea the kinds of training that she went through or the kinds of experiences she had that we just don't know about yet. So if she had entered the zone in the past, if she had broken through her limits at that point, like, previous, now it makes sense that she could do so more casually, and it would make sense as to why she was so confident too. Another thing someone else brought up in the comments was that there are like so many big names in this race, all aiming for one goal of like winning the Japan Cup, right? But of course only one Uma can do it, and that a lot of them kind of got snubbed, relatively speaking. And I agree. I feel like the only main characters, like the foreign Uma, that got any big attention, like Michelle My Baby, Tony Bianca, and Obey Your Master. And even Tony Bianca I would kind of lump in with the ones who were snubbed. The main reason that I didn't is because Tony Bianca was like, she was talked up I think a little bit more with how she had won the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. And again, big deal, right? And so she was like the biggest apparent threat of like among the foreign Uma. But because of that, because of the mix of she was presented as the biggest foreign threat, and because she had so little like screen time and development and such, I don't think she's going to win. I think that's not necessarily a red herring, but just kind of one of those anime tropes, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, she's so big, she's so strong, but then she's going to get defeated. I currently think that Obey Your Master's going to win. I think that it's too early, and we didn't get enough attention on Oguri Cap for her to like push through her limits. Mostly okay, because like we could have this episode jump back a little bit and we get more into the head of Oguri Cap and we get to just see more of the camera on her, etc. And then they could have an appropriate build up to her entering the zone if they were to go that way. So technically that could happen in the episode, but I personally feel like it's too early in this core 2, for that to happen for Oguri. I think that it's going to occur later. If it occurs at all, I really hope it does, because I want my girl Oguri to, like really push through like that and succeed. But I don't think it's going to be this episode. And Tamamo Cross has already entered the zone. She already like used her trump card, right? And then she gets freaked out by Obey Your Master's aura. And so I don't think that Tamamo is going to be able to pull out a win here either. If I'm going to dig further into meta, I'm assuming that this core is going to be separated into like 2, maybe 3, but at least 2 plot arcs, right? And I think that the first 6 episodes, because my initial thinking was that the Japan Cup would be the end of the first plot arc, but now I'm thinking that maybe we're going to have, because this is episode 4 of Core 2, right? Maybe we're going to have this, and then, like, Obey Your Master's going to win, and then we're going to have, like, 2 more episodes where they kind of, like, settle things. I don't know if there'll be some sort of rematch, or I doubt it, because, again, like I talked about last time, I feel like the 4 and Uma after the Japan Cup are just going to head back home, right? But at least some resolution. Because it could always end earlier, but I'm just assuming that they're going to go with, like, round numbers and either do, like, each arc is like 3 episodes or each arc is like 6 episodes kind of thing. But they could throw me off, They could have this one just be 4 episodes, I guess. And just like we see at the beginning of this episode, the conclusion of the Japan Cup, and then the rest of it is just kind of the resolution. I don't know. Obviously, this is all just speculation. But just based on anime tropes and the way that they have like focused on specific characters and the way that things have gone, I don't see Oguri Cap winning, because I think the only way she could is if she pushed through her limits. Oh, she did. There is one thing, and that is that Musaka said, like, remember the one condition, like, for her to be a pace chaser for this race, Musaka made her promise, like, on one condition, right? So that's the thing that I'm waiting for. That's the only reason that I think maybe Oguri could win. So I'm between like Oguri and Obey Your Master, but it's just she's so exhausted right now that without knowing what that condition is, I don't know if she'll be able to, even if she did do whatever it was, and he apparently still seems to think that she can, I just don't know if it'll be enough, especially if we have Obey Your Master actually entering the zone like the end of last episode seemed to indicate. So I'm waiting to see, what the condition was and if Oguri can follow through and what that will mean. But I don't have confidence in that, just with how, God, she was so tired. She was so broken after the beating that Michelle My Baby gave her. It was so sad to see. Because as far as other plot arcs are concerned, the only ones that I know of, the only one I know of really is Super Creek. Because like Super Creek was established as a rival early on. And I also know that Super Creek is like one of Oguri's rivals from the Pretty Derby mobile game. So there's that. So I assume that she's going to play a bigger part. Surely she wasn't here just for the Kikka show and then it's going to disappear, I mean, she was in this last episode too, like watching, and Fumino Nase, her trainer, was like, asking like, okay, what would you do in this situation? And then Super Creek responded, and then Nase was like, see, I should have entered you in this, you would have won. Like that whole deal, right? She's still being built up. Likewise, so is Dicta Striker. I have no idea about like Dicta Striker or like Soccer Boy, real Dicta Striker horse, right? His relationship with Oguri Cap as far as like racing rivals or whatever, but I am hoping, because they certainly do seem to be building up something, I am hoping for more between them. It might just be the Arima Kinen. In which case, I imagine Super Creek is also going to be there, so it could be down to the 3 of them. But Tama is also probably going to be there, so it could be down to the 4 of them. I don't know. But the point was, the only plot arc that I really expect to happen for sure is Super Creek. But we also do know we have to fit her, like, vengeance against Tamamo Cross in there somewhere too. I just don't know if they're going to flesh it out to be a full arc or not. Man, this season's exciting. Man, I probably should have saved some of these thoughts for during, like, the intro when we're just, like, watching that. But, okay. Let's get to the timer now. The Japan Cup has begun! Wait, why is she still by Michelle My Baby in that shot? Oh, no, it's... Okay, we're flashing back. Gotcha. Sorry. It's recap time. Yeah, Michelle's at the front. And we got Tama entering the zone. Maya started singing. I'm sorry. See, White Lightning. Yeah, we get that again. So it's like, surely she is there. The visuals are always cool. You see, it's the glass cracking that makes me think this might be Obey Your Master's first time. And that's where I'd question things, but we don't know. Yep. They really did make her so creepy. Okay, intro time. Just in case you're wondering why there aren't a lot of subtitles popping up, we're just watching the OP now. I still think the biggest thing that I'm wondering right now is, again, let's say Obey Your Master wins, because if any of the 4 in Uma are going to win, I think it's going to be her. I don't think the others were built up appropriately enough. Tony Bianca, again, presented as the biggest threat, but then, like, received no attention. I don't think she's actually going to be that bad. Michelle My Baby, she did her thing with Oguri. Like, that was her moment, was weakening Oguri. And then even, like, Moonlight Lunacy and Ellerslie Pride, where they came in, I think similarly, was, like, bullying Tama a little bit in the back, and then highlighting just how smart and quick thinking, like, Tama was to immediately, like, back out and then go around them. Yeah, anyway, point is though, if Obey Your Master wins, where do they go from here? That's what I want to know. And since it's based on real life horse racing, you know, they just have to work with what they've got, narratively speaking, so it could be really hard to, like, neatly tie everything up. But we don't know for sure. We do still have to see the condition that Musaka had Oguri Cap, like, promise. So, we'll find out. Here we go. Oh, jumping back. See, we're jumping back to California. This is Obey Your Master's area, yeah. The Wild Joker. Oh, boy. So much more serious than I'm used to seeing her. Who is this? Also, yeah, more research, right? Why are they like a mix of each other? The one I know is like both of them combined. Oh, they're so mean. They're so mean. Bunch of bullies. Didn't they have this in the evening? Like we saw at the end of episode 13? Why doesn't she have the star eyes? The other girl had the star eyes. I'm just wait. Is there like some bait and switch thing with the two characters, the two Uma? I was not able to read both. I will read the newspaper later or whatever. Okay, okay. Yeah, she has a picture of her up! What? This was all a joke? This was all a trick? Don the Joker's mask. Oh, that's wild, actually. I did not see that coming. Wild Joker. Well, shoot. So she was just having everyone underestimate her. Because, like, not only did she do her research, but she kept everyone from being able to do their own on her. Yeah, no, it has a big reputation. Got her rainbow eye again. Many more auras than in like previous seasons. It's like leading her. It's not even connected to her anymore. Okay, now it is. Never mind. That was a cool shot. Just, it's Tama and then like 4 foreigners or 3. Yeah. No! Ooh, you never want to see injuries. Poor Tony. That sucks. We haven't seen Ogre in a good bit. Yeah, no, she is. Absolutely. You got this, Tama. I mean, I don't think she does, but I want her to. I didn't know that. Huh. She's so cool. Look how toned she is.
特に意識した相手が隣に並んだ場合は規格外に末足を発揮する。おそらく彼女自身の無自覚の激鱗。レース中盤に検証してみた結果から推測するに、ここは危険地帯。ロスとリスクを覚悟してでも避けるべき領域。
Mm.
悪いね、白い稲妻さん。私は君と競り合いに来たんじゃない。このレースに勝ちに来たんだ。なんとも不格好。不安定で不完全な像。おそらくこれはこの場所とこの状況による限定的なもの。分かっている。私は時代を作れるほどの器じゃない。だからこそだ今この瞬間のために私は返せや。ここはうちの場所や。
Ooh.
この局面は圧倒的に不利。でもタマちゃんなら
I want to see Tama do it. 'I didn't even see Ogre in that. There's Ogre! Yay! Hmm. She's not even given an aura. Not this time. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's all the condition was. There we go. I still think it's too soon. I think it's too soon. Such great faces here. Dang. Yup. Okay, yup. And yeah, her eyes aren't stars there. I mean, I don't know when they stopped being stars, but... I mean, honestly, I'm not even upset after they gave more focus to her and we got to see a little bit more of her story. No, I'm not upset about it. No, she ran real hard. And she really did have to give it everything, and she was smart about it. She was, with all of her prep, with her foolery, you know, tricking people, her deceit. That's the word. God, people were mean to her too, so I'm glad she gets a win. And her first G1 win in a race like this, that's amazing. Not just because of the prestige of the race itself, but because of everyone she was up against. Oh, Tama. Ooh. うん。 It's breaking. Dicta, you're so cool. I like her so much. Oh! Do you see the eyes? I mean, I'm sure they'd see eye to eye on a lot more now that Obey Your Master's being herself. Okay, well. Yeah, see? What a cool little twist. What does the other American Uma think? The one that she's like copying. she looks at the news and is like, wait a second. Oh no. Ah, Tony Bianca is very loved. Mm-hmm.
王者なんて肩書き忘れてしばらくここでゆっくりするのも悪くないかもな。
Okay. And the slice of life music just kicked in.
来てよかったよ。負けてしまったけれどね。負けてしまった。
Oh no. Ah.
紹介はしてないよ。本気で走ったし。
Good for you, Gold City.
ジャパンカップ制覇はニュージーランドの夢だ。
Oh, is it?
我々は決して諦めない。
It's like the triumph for Japan.
必ずこの夢を叶えるものが現れると。
That's cool.
日本はいつでもあんたたちを歓迎するよ。また会おう。今度は雑誌の撮影も一緒にやろうよ。話つけとくからさ。おう、考えとく。
I like all the sportsmanship. They're so good.
ほんとびっくりしたよ。君たちも見ただろう。日本には怪物がいるって聞いてたけど。オーグリキャップが本物のゾンビだったら君は食われて
Yeah, she would have. Oh god, a zombie ogre is terrifying.
た。抜きの体。
I didn't think about that.
お二人は次回のジャパンカップに出走のご予定は。私はもういいや。今度こそ食われちまうかもだし。私はタマモクロス。次は正面から戦って勝てるくらい強くなって戻ってくる。そしたらまた走ってくれるかい。機会があったわな。もちろん出走するよ。ジャパンの芝は香ばしいからね。
Arimakinen. Right on Christmas. It's the fourth Sunday of each December, I have learned. Oh, and that's it? Okay, yeah. We are watching the ending now. Oh, but that was I I didn't expect the race to be that long, but I'm glad it was. That was really cool. Yeah, no, I'm for all of my like reservations with the end of the last episode, you know, all the stuff I was worried about that I talked about, and you know, stuff I talked about at the beginning of this too. Really glad for how it turned out. Yeah, Obey Your Master did win, which, you know, was slightly disappointing because, of course, we're rooting for Oguri, we're rooting for Tamamo, you know, we love our girls. But I think they did a great job of showing a lot more about Obey Your Master, where I was like, okay, no, I can get behind this, absolutely. Both from just like the strategy that she took and the you know, just making us root for her with everyone like calling her a loser. Man, screw those guys. So, you know, I'm not upset with her winning outside of just like, you know, Oguri didn't win, Tamamo didn't win, right? But Obey Your Master earned it. She really did. So, you know, you can't fault her for that. And narratively, they made it work. I'm fine with how they did that, with her training in secret, with her working so hard, and she actually did have that desperation. I just didn't realize that it was such a mask, you know? A zone yet unknown. Is that for Oguri? Meaning like... I can see that meaning different things. That was really cool. Like, I'm still in it, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was too early for Oguri to enter the zone. But she's getting there. You know, the grass, I keep saying the grass. The glass is cracking. She needs something. She's like she thought, right? She's lacking something that gives her that extra push, because it's like, I know that she really, really wants it, right? And Oguri does not want a lot of things in life. She is a very simple Uma. But she's never experienced it yet, you know? And so she doesn't know what it feels like. She doesn't truly know, like, just how far you have to go, just what you have to give in order to, like, push through her limits to that extent. So, I feel for you, Oguri. That's really something. But you know, Tamamo Cross has done it, and Dicta Striker. I'm thinking that Dicta has done it. I don't think we never saw it, did we? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we ever saw Dicta Striker enter the zone, but I feel like she has. Because she's very aware of it, you know? And I feel like that is kind of this like exclusive club. Like you don't know you're in it until you're in it, or you don't know about it until you're in it even. Um, and she's just like this sagacious sort of character right now, you know, this all-knowing sage kind of thing. Just watching and commentating by herself. Just, you know, that little line where, you know, Arden was like, yeah, right? Only like a length behind. And Dick is like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm so looking forward to seeing what more they do with Dicta Striker. Because they build her up so well, and she's so cool. Still want to know a little bit more about that other American Uma that, again, like, Obey Your Master based her facade on. But I don't think we're going to get any more than that. That was such a well done scene, though, of just her utter bitter disappointment. Obey Your Masters, you know? And everyone just like talking down to her or talking down about her. And, you know, she makes the decision of like what she has to do. You know, coming down to the research from what that other Uma like told her. And just like putting on this whole performance, right? For who knows how long, in like such public and non-public spaces. I guess I'll critique that part maybe just a little bit, but I can also see how it's also not worthy of critique. I'll say it just like to share the thoughts. If you've seen Now You See Me, it's a little bit like that, where if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it. It's an old movie at this point, but someone is not who they say they are, right? I'll leave it at that, I guess. But even when they're like acting, you know, playing that other role than they're like outwardly presenting, right? Or no, when they're playing that other role, you know what I'm saying? They do so even when they're completely alone, and so it's like, why? But if you are really just like ingraining that so much into your personality so that you don't slip up or whatever, or in case someone does happen to be watching you or something, fair enough. So I'm not actually critiquing it, but the critique briefly came to mind, and then I shoved it back down. I was like, no, she just got really into character. It was on purpose. And I guess that her eyes probably aren't really stars, right? Like I assume that that's like the auras at this point, and that, I mean, look, I was just accepting it that her stars, or her pupils specifically, were stars, right? Because that's just the kind of thing that happens in anime, right? That's just, you just don't question it to an extent. And you know, the other people in the world don't question it because, again, it's just anime. Whereas like I knew the aura, that was all just for demonstration purposes, right? Like the other characters might feel it and they might see it, but it's not like physically a thing. I kind of assumed that the eyes were physically a thing, but now I assume that it was more just representative of like how deep she was when in and out of the mask. I want to rewatch this to an extent. I mean, I definitely want to rewatch this, but I mean like specifically just to see when her eyes change. Like I want to know the first time that they're not stars. But I'm scrubbing through and there would be a lot to scrub through. Oh, but scrubbing through, I did see that other thing. Okay, so the whole thing about, like, it's against the URA official rules to swerve in front of someone as to block them. But that, I mean, I guess, is swerve the key word there? And then if so, like, what qualifies as that? Because people block all the time. Like, blocking is a strategy within these races, and like it's one of the first things that Oguri had to learn to overcome when she like came to nationals, right? That was the whole thing where Musaka had her do partner running with the other two girls, everyone but God Hannibal, you know. I feel so bad because I can remember like God Hannibal and Craft Universe. I can never remember the extrovert Silent Suzuki name. Does it start with an M? I don't know, but the whole point was it's like, yeah, no, people are going to block you and then you can't do your spurt. So I just want to know, is it just a distance thing where it's like if they're close enough behind you, you're not allowed to like suddenly get in front of them because that's that can lead to injuries. But if it's about injuries, what about all of the roughhousing with like all the foreign Uma like bashing against the other racers? Because I would think that could easily lead to an injury. If you're going at that kind of speed, hitting someone could easily knock either yourself or them like off balance, send them tumbling, breaking their legs or whatever. So I don't know. I was surprised that was a thing. I think the only reason they really brought it up was just to show like this is how desperate she is to win. She's going all out for it, even towing the line between like what's legal within the race and what's not. Yeah, this was a good episode. I feel bad for Tony Bianca, and remember, I don't think it was the previous, like 2 episodes ago, right? It showed her, and she like looked down at her leg. And I was like, oh no, was she hurt? Is she worried about that? And then she was like, not bad. I'm like in just as good condition as I was before arriving in Japan or whatever. Which I kind of, something like that, right? I took to me like, oh, okay, I was misreading the situation. She was just, like testing the grounds or whatever. But maybe not. Maybe it was a hint that she wasn't quite doing so well. If anyone knows like the IRL like horse history for Tony Bianca, like, let me know if she actually like had been like just recovering from an injury or if things were being weird, because I'm curious. But am I curious enough to look it up for myself? Probably not. In part because I don't want to like accidentally run into spoilers. I don't know if Tony Bianca is going to play any further role in this core, but play on the safe side, right? So yeah, I don't think I ever actually like finished the thought that I had, or maybe I just went elsewhere with it and then finished that. But with Tamamo Cross having entered the zone, with I think Dick the Striker having entered the zone, or at least being so aware of it, right, that she's able to comment that Oguri did not do it. I wonder if Oguri might seek out their assistance, because she clearly, Oguri's like, Obeyer Master and Tamamo Cross have something that I don't. So I wonder if she is going to like reach out and actually like ask them, go straight to the source for some advice. I think that could be cool, because I want to see more Tamamo Cross, and I really like Oguri Cap and Tamamo in more like casual interactions together. I love them in races too, don't get me wrong. But I think their personalities fit really well in casual interactions too, and I'd like to see more of that. And not just have to rely on like people's little fan comics, I think that's all that I have to talk about for now. We'll see if I end up remembering more. Hopefully I can continue to remember it until like the start of next episode's reaction, and then I can discuss it a little bit there. But yeah, I'm very pleased with how this episode turned out. 1, just because it was a solid episode on its own. Like it was great. And 2, because it let me set aside my fears that I had from the last episode. Like, it answered those questions. It had the proper development that I was looking for, because that's a lot of what it was, right? Like, it was, I thought it lacked development in some areas, and then it was going to cheapen some big things, and I just wanted to see how they would work through that, and I thought they worked through it very well. So, yay. Let me know what you all thought about this episode in the comments below. Really looking forward to the next one. I hope you all are too. With that, we're calling it here, so have a good one, everybody.